The day my family branded me a thief started like any other Tuesday at Miller & Sons Financial. I was reviewing quarterly reports when my father's secretary appeared at my office door, her face tight with worry. "Your father wants to see you immediately." I'm Gwendolyn. And until that moment, I thought being the black sheep of the family was the worst it could get. I was wrong. The walk to my father's office felt like a march to the gallows. Through the glass walls, I could see them waiting. My father Abel behind his massive desk, my mother Esme perched on the leather sofa, and my cousin Andrew standing by the window, his arms crossed. "Sit down," my father commanded as I entered. His voice carried none of its usual warmth. "What's going on?" I asked, but the knot in my stomach already knew. My father slid a folder across his desk. "Care to explain the discrepancies in these accounts?" I opened the folder, my hands trembling slightly. Numbers swam before my eyes, transaction records, bank statements, all highlighted in accusatory yellow. "I don't understand. These aren't my accounts." "They're linked to your department," Andrew chimed in, his voice dripping with false concern. "Over $200,000, Gwen." "How could you?" "What?" I stood up so quickly my chair toppled backward. "I haven't touched any money. These aren't even my signatures." "Sit down," my mother snapped. "Stop making this worse than it already is." "Making it worse? I haven't done anything wrong." I looked from face to face, searching for any sign of doubt in their accusations. There was none. "The evidence is clear," my father said, his voice heavy with disappointment. "The transfers were made from your office computer using your login credentials." "That's impossible. Someone must have used my computer when I wasn't there. I would never—" "Enough!" My father's fist came down hard on the desk. "We've already contacted the police." The room spun. "The police? Dad, please, you have to listen to me." "I've listened enough." He stood up, straightening his tie. "You have 1 hour to clear out your office. Consider yourself terminated, effective immediately." My mother's eyes were wet with tears, but her voice was steel. "How could you do this to us? To the family name?" "I didn't do anything," I was screaming now, dignity forgotten. "Andrew, tell them. You know I wouldn't do this." Andrew shook his head, the perfect picture of family loyalty. "I'm sorry, Gwen. The numbers don't lie." Security escorted me to my office. My sister Riley watched from her cubicle as I packed my things into a cardboard box, her face a mask of confusion and hurt. Whispers followed me through the building like poisonous smoke. That evening, my phone buzzed with a text from my mother. "Don't come to Sunday dinner. Don't contact us. We need time to deal with this disgrace." I sat in my apartment surrounded by family photos I couldn't bear to look at when my best friend Sandra called. I just heard, "Are you okay?" "They didn't even give me a chance to defend myself," I whispered, my voice breaking. 29 years of being their daughter, and they believed the worst of me in 5 minutes. "This isn't right," Sandra said firmly. "There has to be more to the story." I stared at the family photo on my coffee table. Last Christmas, all of us smiling, Andrew's arm around my shoulders. Something clicked in my mind. "There is," I said, my voice hardening. "And I'm going to find out what it is." Sandra was quiet for a moment. "What are you going to do?" I picked up the photo and turned it face down. "They want to believe I'm capable of stealing? Fine, but I'm going to prove who really did this, even if it tears this family apart. Be careful, Gwen. Revenge isn't always—" "This isn't about revenge," I cut her off, but even I didn't believe that. "This is about justice. And trust me, when I'm done, they'll all know exactly what it feels like to have their world turned upside down." I hung up and opened my laptop. The cursor blinked on the search bar like a challenge. My fingers hovered over the keys for a moment before typing. How to hire a private investigator. The family that cast me out had no idea what they'd just set in motion. They thought they knew me, the troublemaker, the disappointment, the black sheep. But they were about to learn what I was really capable of. And this time, I wasn't going to play by their rules. Sandra's tiny apartment became my sanctuary in the weeks following my exile. I sat cross-legged on her worn couch, surrounded by takeout containers and financial documents I'd managed to save before being escorted out. "You're going to give yourself an ulcer," Sandra said, watching me highlight another suspicious transaction. "Look at this." I thrust the paper at her. 3 separate transfers, all exactly 67,430 dollars. Who makes transfers that specific? Someone trying to stay under the $70,000 reporting threshold? Sandra suggested, surprising me with her financial knowledge. Exactly. I circled the dates. And they're all from weeks when Andrew was handling the overseas accounts. My phone buzzed, Riley calling for the 3rd time this week. I declined the call. "You should talk to her," Sandra said softly. "She might be on your side." "There are no sides anymore, just truth and lies." I rubbed my temples. "And right now I need proof." Sandra grabbed her laptop. "Then let's get you some. I know someone who might help." An hour later, we sat across from Camden Steele in a coffee shop that had seen better days. He looked more like a college professor than a private investigator. Wire-rimmed glasses, rumpled blazer, perpetually messy hair. "So," he said, studying the documents spread between our coffee cups, "you believe your cousin framed you?" "I know he did." I leaned forward. "But I need proof that will stand up to my father's scrutiny. He thinks Andrew walks on water." Camden's eyes narrowed. "Family cases are messy. Are you sure you want to go down this road? They already think I'm a criminal. What else do I have to lose?" He took off his glasses, cleaning them methodically. "Your retainer is $5,000. I'll need access to any financial records you can get, and a list of Andrew's known associates." "I can get you $3,000 now," I said, my savings account screaming in protest. "The rest by the end of the month." "Deal!" He pulled out a contract. "But remember, you might not like what we find." That night I couldn't sleep. My phone lit up with a text from Riley. "Mum's a wreck. Dad's drinking again. Please just confess and come home." I threw the phone across the room. The next morning, Camden called. "I've been reviewing the records. Your cousin's good, but he made mistakes. Small ones." "What kind of mistakes?" "The kind that leave breadcrumbs. Meet me at the office in an hour." Camden's office was a converted industrial space, all exposed brick and metal filing cabinets. He had 3 monitors displaying different aspects of the investigation. "See these transactions?" He pointed to a spreadsheet. "They're all routed through a shell company in Delaware. Guess who registered it?" My heart raced. "Andrew?" "Better," Camden grinned. "His girlfriend, the one your family doesn't know about." "What girlfriend?" He pulled up a social media profile. "Meet Jessica, corporate lawyer and Andrew's secret partner for the last year. She registered the company 3 months before the money started disappearing." I stared at the photo of Andrew with his arm around a stunning redhead. "My parents think he's still dating that doctor they approved of." "People hide things for a reason," Camden said, pulling up more documents. "And your cousin's been hiding a lot." My phone buzzed again. My mother this time. The voicemail was what I expected. "The police want to press charges. If you confess now, we can work something out. Please, Gwendolyn, don't make this worse." I deleted the message and turned to Camden. "How fast can we build a case?" "Give me 2 weeks. But Gwendolyn?" His expression turned serious. "Once we start this, there's no going back. Your family will never be the same." I thought about Sunday dinners, Christmas mornings, the way Andrew always got the benefit of the doubt while I got suspicious glances. I thought about my father's disappointment and my mother's tears. "Good," I said, my voice steady. "Because the family they think they have is already a lie." Camden nodded, turning back to his monitors. "Then let's get to work." That evening, Sandra brought over wine and pizza. "You okay?" I showed her the growing evidence on my laptop. For the first time since this started, I actually am. "We found something, Sandra. Something big." She squeezed my hand. "Just be careful. Revenge can consume you." "This isn't just revenge anymore," I said, staring at Andrew's smiling face on my screen. "This is justice. And when I'm done, They'll all know exactly what it feels like to have their trust betrayed. I closed my laptop, but not before saving Jessica's photo. Andrew's perfect mask was starting to crack, and I was going to rip it off completely, no matter what it cost me. Camden's car smelled like coffee and old books as we sat outside Jessica's law firm, watching people stream in and out of the glass building. "Tell me again why we're here," I asked, shifting uncomfortably in the passenger seat. "Because people get sloppy when they're in love." Camden lifted his camera, snapping photos as Jessica emerged, Andrew close behind. "Look who's having a business lunch." They walked arm in arm to a nearby restaurant, completely wrapped up in each other. Andrew hadn't even bothered to check if anyone was watching. "Amateur," Camden muttered. "For someone stealing thousands, he's not very careful." "He never had to be," I said bitterly. "Everything was always handed to him." Camden lowered his camera. "Speaking from experience?" "Let's just say being the family disappointment has its advantages. Nobody expects much from you." We followed them to the restaurant, taking a booth within earshot. Camden pulled out a small recording device disguised as a phone. "Is that legal?" I whispered. "In a public place? Absolutely." He adjusted the device. "Now, quiet. Let's hear what the happy couple has to say." Andrew's voice drifted over. "The transfer's complete. Dad doesn't suspect a thing." My hands clenched under the table. Jessica's laugh tinkled like expensive crystal. "And your cousin?" "Gwen," Andrew scoffed. "She's history. Everyone bought it hook, line and sinker, even sent her packing with a police threat." "You're brilliant, baby," Jessica purred. "How much longer until we have enough?" "3 more months, Max. Then we'll—" A waiter appeared at their table, drowning out the rest. Camden cursed softly. Back in his office, Camden played the recording while I paced. "It's good," he said, "but not enough. We need paper trails, bank statements." "How do we get those?" "Leave that to me." He hesitated. "There's something else you should know." I did some digging into Jessica's past. She's been involved in 3 other corporate fraud cases. "What happened?" "Nothing. She was never charged. Always had a fall guy." He gave me a meaningful look. "Sound familiar?" My phone buzzed. Riley again. This time I answered. "Gwen? Thank God, I've been so worried." "Have you?" My voice came out harder than intended. "Of course I have. Look, I know you didn't do it. You're many things, but you're not a thief." I sat down heavily. "Try telling that to Mom and Dad." "I have." But Andrew showed them more evidence yesterday. Bank transfers, emails. "What emails?" I interrupted, my heart racing. "Something about offshore accounts." "Gwen, it looks really bad." Camden was already typing. "Emails can be traced," he mouthed. "Riley, I have to go, but thanks for calling." After hanging up, I turned to Camden. He's fabricating evidence now. "Which means he's scared." Camden cracked his knuckles. "Good. Scared people make mistakes." That evening, Sandra came over with Chinese food and found me surrounded by papers. "You look terrible," she announced, dropping the takeout on my coffee table. "Thanks. You really know how to boost a girl's confidence." "I'm serious." She cleared space to sit. "When's the last time you slept?" "Sleep is for people who haven't been framed by their golden boy cousin." Sandra grabbed the papers from my hands. "Tell me what you found today." I told her about the lunch, the recording, Jessica's history. "He's getting sloppy, Sandra. He thinks he's won." "Men like that always do," she said darkly. Then her eyes caught something in the papers. "Wait, what's this?" She pulled out a bank statement. The same odd amount, $67,430, appeared again, but this time transferred to a different account. "Camden's tracking it now," I said. "The money's moving through at least 3 shell companies before disappearing offshore." "Offshore where?" "That's what we need to find out." I grabbed my phone as it buzzed with a text from Camden. "Got something. Come to the office now." Sandra drove me. Camden was waiting with a triumphant grin. "Remember those emails Riley mentioned?" He spun his monitor toward us. "Andrew got sloppy with his digital footprint. The emails were created last week, backdated to before the theft. Amateur move." "Can you prove it?" "Better." He pulled up another window. I found where the money's going. Your cousin and his girlfriend are building quite the nest egg in the Cayman Islands. My hands shook as I stared at the numbers. This is it. This is what we need. Almost, Camden cautioned. We need one more thing, proof that he accessed your computer to make the original transfers. How do we get that? He smiled grimly. We set a trap, but it's risky. You'll have to go back to the office. They'll call the police if they see me. Not if you have a good reason to be there. He held up a legal document. How about a formal deposition request? I looked at Sandra, who nodded encouragingly, then back at Camden. When do we do it? Tomorrow. Better wear something bulletproof. He paused. Metaphorically speaking, of course. I grabbed my coat. Tomorrow it is. Time to show Andrew what the family disappointment can really do. Walking into Miller & Sons Financial felt like stepping into a minefield. Every head turned as I crossed the lobby, Camden beside me with his briefcase. The security guard reached for his radio, but Camden smoothly presented the legal documents. Ms. Miller is here for a formal deposition regarding ongoing financial irregularities, he announced loudly enough for everyone to hear. Riley appeared from around the corner, coffee cup shattering on the floor when she saw me. Gwen, not now, Riley, I said, my voice steadier than my hands. My father's new secretary tried to stop us at his office. Mr. Miller is in a meeting. Perfect. Camden pushed past her. This concerns all parties involved. We burst into the office where my father sat with Andrew, both looking up in shock. Andrew's face went white. What is the meaning of this? My father demanded, standing. Camden laid out the documents. As your daughter's legal representative, I am here to formally request access to all computer logs and security footage from the dates in question. You have no right, Andrew started. Actually, we have every right, Camden interrupted. Unless you'd prefer we take this directly to the SEC. My father's face darkened. Wait outside, both of you. In the hallway, I caught Riley's eye across the office. She hurried over while Camden made a show of reviewing papers. What are you doing? She whispered. Proving my innocence. I glanced at Andrew through the glass walls. He was gesturing frantically at my father. How's Mom? A mess. She's barely eating. Riley touched my arm. Gwen, last night I heard Andrew on the phone. He sounded scared, talking about moving something offshore. Miss Miller. A security guard approached. Your father will see you now. Back in the office, my father looked 10 years older. You have 1 hour with the IT department. After that, I want you gone. We'll need access to Andrew's records as well, Camden added smoothly. Absolutely not, Andrew exploded. My father held up his hand. Enough. Give them whatever they need. I want this over with. In the IT department, Camden plugged in a device while pretending to review logs. Got it, he whispered. Remote access established. You can't be here. Andrew appeared in the doorway, his usual polish cracking. Afraid of what we'll find? I stood up, facing him. He stepped closer, voice low. You're making a mistake, Gwen. Walk away now while you still can. Like you did when they accused me? I did what I had to do. For Jessica? His face changed, fear flashing across it. I don't know what you're talking about. The offshore accounts? The shell companies? Does Dad know about those? Andrew grabbed my arm, fingers digging in. You have no idea what you're dealing with. Let go of her, Camden's voice cut through the tension. Now. Andrew released me, straightening his tie. 1 hour's almost up. Get out. As we left, Riley caught us by the elevator. Gwen, wait. There's something else. She glanced around nervously. I found something in Andrew's desk. Papers about a company in Delaware. Can you get them to me? She nodded. Tonight. I'll bring them to Sandra's. Back at Camden's office, his computer dinged continuously as data poured in from his remote access. Look at this, he pointed to the screen. Someone accessed your computer late at night multiple times, using Andrew's keycard to enter the building. Can you prove it was him? Better. He pulled up security footage. See that? He's not even trying to hide his face. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Back off or everyone learns about your little cocaine habit in college. I showed Camden. He's getting desperate. Good. Desperate people make mistakes. He frowned at his screen. Like this one. He just logged into the offshore account from his work computer. You can see that. Remote access works both ways. And? Got it. He sat back, grinning. Full access to all his transactions. Your cousin really should update his passwords more often than never. My phone buzzed again. Riley. On my way with the papers. You won't believe what I found. She's meeting us at Sandra's, I told Camden. Want to see what else Andrew's been hiding? He started packing up his equipment. After you. But Gwen? He paused. Be careful. Desperate people aren't just sloppy. They're dangerous. I thought about Andrew's grip on my arm, the threat in his voice. I know, but he's not the only one who can play dirty. As we left the office, I caught my reflection in the window. I barely recognized myself. Harder, sharper, more determined. Andrew wanted to play hardball? Fine. But he was about to learn that the family disappointment had nothing left to lose. And that made me more dangerous than he could imagine. Sandra's apartment buzzed with tension as Riley spread the documents across the coffee table. Her hands trembled as she pointed to a series of signatures. Look at these, she said. Andrew's been forging Dad's signature for months. These authorizations for international transfers. All fake. Camden examined the papers under his desk lamp. This is good, really good. But why would he risk forging these when he could just... He stopped, eyes widening. Oh, clever bastard. What? I leaned forward. These aren't just transfers, they're authorizations to create new accounts. Your father's signature gives him power to open accounts in the company's name without oversight. Sandra brought us coffee, peering over my shoulder. Is that why the money's so hard to trace? Exactly, Camden nodded. Each account creates a new layer of separation between Andrew and the stolen money. Classic laundering technique. My phone lit up with a text from Andrew. Last chance, Gwen. Walk away or things get ugly. Riley read it over my shoulder. He's scared. I've never seen him like this before. Good. I showed Camden another document. Look at these dates. They match perfectly with his trips to the Caymans. Business meetings, my ass, Riley muttered. He told Dad they were client visits. Camden's laptop pinged. Speaking of meetings, he turned the screen toward us. Your cousin just booked a flight to Grand Cayman for tomorrow. He's running, Sandra said. Not if I can help it. I grabbed my phone, but Camden caught my wrist. Wait. We need to be smart about this. If he runs, he'll transfer everything offshore before we can stop him. So what do we do? Camden smiled grimly. We let him think he's winning. Riley, can you get back into the office tonight? She nodded. I have late access for the quarterly reports. Perfect. I need you to plant something on his computer. Make him think his tracks are covered. While Camden explained the technical details to Riley, I stepped onto Sandra's balcony for air. The city lights blurred through unshed tears. Sandra followed me out. You okay? I don't know anymore. I gripped the railing. What if we're wrong? What if... Stop. She turned me to face her. I've known you since college. You're many things, but you're not a thief. And you're not crazy. My phone buzzed again. My mother this time. The police are asking more questions. Please, Gwendolyn, just confess. We can get you help. I threw the phone onto Sandra's couch through the open door. Camden emerged from his laptop cave. We've got movement. Andrew's accessing the accounts right now. We crowded around his screen, watching numbers shift between accounts. He's consolidating everything, Camden explained, getting ready to move it all at once. Can we stop him? Riley asked. Better. Camden's fingers flew over the keyboard. We can track every penny. And... got it. Full transaction history, account numbers, everything. Enough to prove it was him? I asked. Enough to put him away for a long time. Riley's phone chimed. Dad's calling an emergency board meeting for tomorrow morning. Andrew must have told him something. Perfect timing. Camden started gathering the documents. That's exactly when we'll present our evidence. I can't go, I reminded them. They'll have me arrested. You won't need to. He held up a flash drive. Everything's here. Riley can present it. Riley straightened her shoulders. I'll do it. It's time someone stood up to him. Later that night, alone in my apartment, I stared at the family photo still lying face down. My phone lit up with another message from Andrew. "You have no idea what you're about to lose." I finally replied, "Neither do you." Camden called minutes later. "Everything's set. Riley planted the files. Andrew took the bait. He thinks he's cleared his tracks. And tomorrow? Tomorrow we end this. But Gwen?" His voice turned serious. "Are you sure you want to go through with it? This will destroy your family's trust in him forever." I thought about Sunday dinners, Christmas mornings, every time Andrew got the benefit of the doubt while I got suspicious glances. I thought about my mother's tears, my father's disappointment, and Riley's quiet suffering. Their trust in him was built on lies, I said. Maybe it's time they saw the truth. "Okay then," I heard him typing. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be intense." I hung up and picked up the family photo, finally looking at it properly. Andrew's perfect smile, my forced one, the way everyone clustered around him like he was the sun. Tomorrow that sun would set. And in the darkness that followed, maybe, just maybe, the truth would finally have its day. I set the photo back down, this time facing up. Let him smile while he could. Tomorrow we'd see who had the last laugh. Camden's office became our war room as we watched the board meeting unfold through Riley's video call. She'd positioned her laptop perfectly, giving us a view of the entire conference room. My father sat at the head of the table, Andrew to his right, looking surprisingly composed for someone about to lose everything. "He's got something planned," Camden muttered, fingers hovering over his keyboard. "Look at him. Too confident." Sandra squeezed my hand as my father called the meeting to order. "First item," he announced. "Andrew has some concerns about our international holdings." Andrew stood, straightening his tie. "Thank you, Uncle Abel. As I was reviewing our accounts, I discovered some disturbing irregularities." "Irregularities like these?" Riley's voice cut through the room as she started distributing folders. Her hands shook slightly, but her voice remained steady. "What is this?" my father demanded. "Evidence," Riley said, "of who really stole the money." Andrew's smile flickered. "Riley, this isn't the time." "It's exactly the time." She connected her laptop to the projector. Camden's carefully prepared presentation appeared on the screen. "These are records of every transaction Andrew made over the past year." The room erupted in whispers. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. "This is ridiculous," Andrew scoffed, but his face had lost its colour. "Uncle Abel, clearly Riley's been manipulated by Gwendolyn." "The signatures, Andrew," Riley pressed on. "Dad, look at the signatures. He's been forging your name." My father flipped through the documents, his face darkening. "These are very serious accusations." "Check your phone," Camden whispered to me. I looked down to see a message from Jessica. "Andrew says you're bluffing. You have nothing." "Now," Camden said, hitting enter on his keyboard. On the projection screen, new windows began popping up, emails between Andrew and Jessica, bank transfers, flight records to the Caymans. "What is this?" My father's voice had dropped dangerously low. "Would you like to explain?" Riley asked Andrew. "Or should I?" Andrew's composure cracked. "These documents are clearly fabricated. Like the ones you fabricated to frame Gwen." Riley's voice shook with anger. "I found the program on your computer, Andrew. The one you used to create fake emails in Gwen's name." My mother stood up suddenly. "Abel, look at this." She pointed to a transaction record. "These dates, they match exactly with when." "When you accused me," I texted Andrew. "How does it feel?" I watched him check his phone, his face contorting with rage. "This is absurd," he sputtered. "Uncle Abel, you know me. I would never—" "Call Jessica," Camden whispered. I dialed her number, putting it on speaker. The room fell silent as it rang. "Andrew?" Jessica answered. "The accounts are locked. What's happening?" Andrew lunged for his phone, but Riley was faster, putting it on the conference room speaker. "Jessica, don't—" Andrew started. "I can't access any of the offshore accounts," Jessica's panic filled the room. Did they freeze everything? Andrew, what are we going to do with the money? The silence that followed was deafening. My father stood slowly, his face ashen. Security, he said quietly into his phone. Please escort Andrew to my office and call the police. You can't do this, Andrew shouted. I built this company's international division. I made us millions. You stole millions, Riley corrected, and framed your own cousin. As security led Andrew away, my mother sank into her chair, tears streaming down her face. Gwendolyn, she whispered, what have we done? Camden closed his laptop. It's done. The authorities have been notified about the accounts. I watched through the video as my father buried his face in his hands. Riley's camera caught Andrew being led past the conference room, his perfect mask finally shattered. How do you feel? Sandra asked softly. I stared at the screen, at my broken family trying to process the truth. I don't know. My phone buzzed with a message from my father. Come home, please. We need to talk. Are you going to go? Camden asked. I thought about all the Sunday dinners I'd missed, all the nights I'd cried myself to sleep, all the times I'd wondered if revenge would feel as good as I'd imagined. Not today, I replied to my father. I need time, just like you did. Sandra hugged me as Riley ended the video call. It's over, Gwen. You did it. But watching my family's world crumble didn't feel like victory. It felt like truth. Painful, necessary truth. And, as Andrew's words echoed in my head, you have no idea what you're about to lose. I realized he'd been wrong. I'd already lost everything. The only difference was now he had too. The police station hummed with fluorescent lights and hushed conversations as I sat across from Detective Morris, watching her review the evidence for the third time. This is quite thorough, she said, looking up from Camden's files. Your PI did excellent work. Will it be enough? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. More than enough. Mr. Andrew Miller won't be seeing daylight for quite some time. She closed the folder. Though I have to ask, why didn't you come to us sooner? Would you have believed me? The family disappointment over the golden boy? A commotion outside interrupted her response. Through the glass walls, I saw my parents arriving with Riley. My mother's eyes were red-rimmed, my father's shoulders slumped with the weight of betrayal. They're here to give their statements, Detective Morris explained. Would you like to? No, I stood quickly. I should go. But as I turned to leave, my mother's voice caught me. Gwendolyn. I froze, hand on the door handle. Her footsteps approached, hesitant. Please, she whispered. Just look at me. I turned. The woman who had so quickly believed the worst of me now looked small, broken. I'm so sorry, she choked out. We should have listened. We should have... Mrs. Miller, Detective Morris interrupted gently. We need your statement now. My father stepped forward. Gwen, about the company accounts. Don't. I cut him off. I don't work there anymore, remember? Riley touched my arm as I passed. Andrew's talking, telling them everything. Of course he is, I said bitterly. Anything to save himself. Outside, Camden waited in his car. How'd it go? They're taking statements, building their case. I buckled my seatbelt. Can we go? Actually, he checked his rearview mirror, we have one more stop. We pulled up outside a luxury apartment building where Jessica lived. Police cars surrounded the entrance. Why are we here? Because, Camden nodded toward the door, sometimes karma needs a little push. We watched as officers led Jessica out in handcuffs, her perfect makeup streaked with tears. She spotted me and her face contorted. You, she screamed. You ruined everything. No, I called back calmly. Andrew did that all by himself. My phone buzzed, a text from Andrew's number. I hope you're happy. You destroyed our family. You did that, I typed back, the moment you decided to frame me. Camden drove me home, but as we pulled up to my apartment, he hesitated. There's something else you should know. Your father called me earlier. My stomach clenched. And? The board is meeting tomorrow. They're voting on new leadership. He glanced at me. They want you to come back. I laughed harshly. They must be desperate. They're trying to save the company's reputation. A redemption story sells better than a scandal. And if I say no, then you walk away clean. Your name's cleared. You don't owe them anything. My phone lit up with messages. Riley, my mother, my father, even old colleagues offering congratulations and apologies. They're calling an emergency family meeting tonight, Riley's text read. Please come. We need to make this right. Sandra appeared at my car window, knocking gently. Thought you might need backup. How did you... Riley called me. She opened my door. Come on, I'll make coffee and you can tell me why you're sitting in a car instead of celebrating. Inside her apartment, surrounded by the same takeout containers and case files that had become our war room, I finally broke down. I thought I wanted revenge, I sobbed. But this, seeing them all broken like this, that's because you're not Andrew, Sandra said firmly. You wanted justice, not destruction. My phone buzzed again. Detective Morris. Andrew's confessed to everything. We'll need you to testify. What are you going to do? Sandra asked. I stared at the family photo still lying face down on her coffee table. I'm going to tell the truth. All of it. In court, at the family meeting, everywhere. And the company? I thought about my father's office, Andrew's empty desk, the family legacy built on trust and shattered by betrayal. I don't know yet. I picked up my phone, typing a response to Riley. I'll be there tonight, but I'm bringing Sandra. And Camden? Sandra asked with a slight smile. He's done enough. I stood up, suddenly feeling lighter. It's time I faced my family on my own terms. As we prepared to leave for the family meeting, I finally turned the photo face up. The perfect family smile now seemed like a mask, one that had finally cracked to reveal the truth underneath. And maybe, just maybe, that truth would set us all free. The family estate's dining room felt smaller than I remembered. Maybe it was the weight of everything that had happened. Or maybe it was just that I'd outgrown the need for its grandeur. The board voted unanimously, my father said, his voice echoing in the tense silence. They want you to take over Andrew's position. I set down my water glass carefully. And what do you want? We want you home, my mother whispered from across the table. We want to make things right. Riley squeezed my hand under the table. Sandra, sitting on my other side, gave me an encouraging nod. Making things right isn't that simple, I said. You believed the worst of me without a second thought. We were wrong, my father's voice cracked. I was wrong. I let Andrew blind me because he told me what I wanted to hear. And now you're doing the same thing. I stood up. Offering me his job because it's convenient, because it looks good for the company. No, my father pushed back his chair, because you're the only one who was strong enough to stand up for the truth, even when it cost you everything. Detective Morris's words from earlier echoed in my head. Andrew's looking at 15 years minimum. Jessica took a plea deal to testify against him. The company needs new leadership, my father continued. Someone who understands that integrity matters more than appearances. And you think that's me? The black sheep? The survivor, Riley corrected. The one who fought back. My mother reached across the table, her hand trembling. We don't deserve your forgiveness, but please give us a chance to earn it. I looked at Sandra, who nodded slightly. Tell them, she mouthed. I got another job offer, I said quietly. Camden's expanding his investigation firm. He wants me to head the financial crimes division. The silence that followed was deafening. That's... My father cleared his throat. That's wonderful. Is that what you want? My mother asked. I want to help other people who've been framed, betrayed, written off. I met their eyes one by one. I want to make sure no one else goes through what I did. Then do both, Riley suggested suddenly. Work with Camden, but consult for the company. Help us rebuild the right way. My father's eyes lit up. She's right. We need someone who knows how to spot fraud, who understands both sides of the system. On my terms, I said firmly. Complete autonomy. And I want Riley promoted to senior management. Riley's head snapped up. What? You stood up to Andrew. You risked everything to expose the truth. The company needs more of that. My father nodded slowly. Agreed. To all of it. And Sunday dinners? My mother asked softly. I thought about all the empty chairs at Sandra's table, all the nights spent planning revenge instead of healing. We start over, I said. No pretenses. No perfect family act. Just truth. I'd like that, Riley smiled through tears. My phone buzzed. A text from Camden. How's it going? They're trying, I typed back. So am I. The police finished processing Andrew's office today, my father said. Would you help me go through it tomorrow? I saw the cost of that request in his eyes, the admission of betrayal, the need for help, the desire to make amends. Yes, I said. But first, there's something else we need to do. I pulled out the old family photo from my bag, the one that had lain face down for so long. Then I took out a new frame. Sandra took this last week, I said, showing them a photo of Riley and me outside Camden's office, laughing at something off camera. Real smiles, real moments, that's what family should be. My mother touched the photo gently. It's beautiful. It's honest, I corrected. And that's what I need from all of you. Complete honesty. They nodded, and for the first time, I believed them. Then let's begin again, my father said, raising his glass. To truth. To consequences, Riley added. To family, my mother whispered. I looked at Sandra, my constant through the storm, at Riley, who chose truth over loyalty, at my parents, trying to rebuild from the ashes of their perfect illusion. To justice, I said, raising my glass, and to whatever comes next. Outside, the sun was setting on the family estate, casting long shadows across the manicured lawn, but inside, in the warm light of truth and reconciliation, something new was beginning. Not perfect, not unbroken, but real, and that was worth fighting for.